Cocoa Beach is your ultimate Florida beach vacation. Pack your bags and open your mind. Adventure is calling from Orlando's closest beach. Cocoa Beach is Florida's secret gem that's got it all. It's the budget-friendly, retro-cool destination that families and surfers adore. Come soak up the sun and ride the East Coast's most famous waves. Start planning your one-of-a-kind getaway now at visitspacecoast.com. That's visitspacecoast.com.
Hello and welcome to History for Weirdos.
We are your hosts, Andrew
and Stephanie.
And each week, we're going to take you on a journey into the strange, obscure, and relentlessly entertaining corners of human history.
Now listen up, friends, because it's about to get weird.
Welcome back, Weirdos, to the History for Weirdos podcast, episode number 53.
Happy Monday to those who listen on the day this launches. Happy day to those who don't.
Day. Exactly. I love that. And yeah, to the people who watch it like day one, you guys are like rock stars.
Yeah. I'm the same way with my favorite podcast, so I
yeah.
identify with that.
Identify with that too with mine. So, before we get into it, I just want to actually offer a quick correction. In episode 51 on Caravaggio, I mentioned a painting that I thought was by El Greco, and I was corrected. It was by Francisco Goya.
Yes.
And it's Saturn or Kronos eating his children. Very disturbing painting if you guys want to take a look at it. Cool. But I don't even remember why I was referencing it, to be honest, but someone had mentioned it on our Instagram, and so I just want to give that a quick point of correction.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have my phone with me right now actually to shout out the person who gave the correction, but thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
We're all here learning together.
Yeah, and I always want to make sure that we're giving out correct information
as much as possible.
Right.
Again,
we're human. We'll make mistakes.
It's amateur hour over here. Not gonna lie, but we're definitely gonna try to not give you all fake information.
Yeah, seriously. Well, but again, thank you to whomever did that. Really appreciate it. So, without further ado, Stephanie, it's your turn to tell us a tale. So, what do you have for us?
Well, this week I have the story of Robert James Lees. He is probably someone you haven't heard of.
I have not, no.
I don't think a lot of people would have heard of this. This would be, as the young folks would say, a deep cut.
Ooh, or as I would say, this is a deep cut.
It's a deep cut. This, I will share at the end of the episode how I even found out about this person. I don't anticipate this episode to be particularly long because there's not a ton of information on him.
Ooh.
But he has two really interesting intersecting points in history that I wanted to share. So, Robert James Lees was a British author, journalist, and spiritualist of the late Victorian era, known for his clairvoyant connections to Prince Albert and Jack the Ripper.
I'm intrigued. Also, his last name is Lees.
Lees. L-E-E-S.
That's so interesting.
Right? I haven't actually heard that last name before.
Me neither. Drop the S and I've heard it a million times. But...
Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you all some background information on this man. Lees was born on August 12th, 1849 in Hinchley, and I can guarantee you I will not pronounce this right. Leicestershire? Leicestershire? I don't know. Somewhere in England.
Is it you know how it looks like Worcester, but it's like Worcester?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's at Leicestershire?
Yeah. That's exactly what I think is going to happen with the pronunciation.
I'm looking over your notes right now. I have no idea how to pronounce that.
Leicestershire.
Leicestershire. Yeah, let's go with that.
If anyone knows, let us know. To William and Elizabeth Lees. He really early on in his life got pretty well known because he claimed to have his first psychic experience at the age of 3.
Okay, I'm liking where this is heading already.
Yep. He kept diaries, so we actually know some of his inner thoughts. He wrote, I don't actually know if this was in his diary or his books, because as I mentioned, he's an author and he did publish a lot of books. But I found this quote directly from Lees stating, I am personally aware that as a child I cried at being left in the darkness unless I saw a mysterious and to others invisible kilted Highlander who remained beside me talking or singing till I fell asleep.
Maybe it's Jamie Fraser.
And even now, after a lapse of half a century, the vivid memory of his strong but kindly face is as freshly recalled as if he had sat behind me while this new year was born. I don't think it was Jamie Fraser because he definitely would have mentioned like he was smoking hot too.
Okay, nice thing to say to your husband. Kind of weird, but okay.
But isn't that interesting? That had just that image of like, oh, if I was alone, I would cry as a little kid unless my like ghost Highlander friend was there.
Dude, that's also pretty cool.
That's a cool ghost friend to have.
Yeah, I would love to have that.
Mm-hmm. So Lees came from a humble home and had not much formal education. But later in his life, he did write a series of spiritualist books, which sold pretty well, even after his lifetime.
Okay.
He claimed that these books had been dictated to him by his friends in the spirit realm, and he referred to himself as the recorder, not the author of the books.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about spiritualism, because I mentioned that he was specifically a spiritualist. So spiritualism was a social and religious movement. And this is, I really just needed to quote Wikipedia directly. So according to Wikipedia, spiritualism is founded on two core beliefs. One, that contact with the spirits is possible, and that the spirits are more advanced than humans. Oh, sorry, I guess that was the second belief.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's the second belief.
Yeah.
Proof. The spirits are more advanced than me.
Yeah, I know, case and point.
But this leads spiritualists to believe a third belief, that the spirits are capable of providing useful knowledge about moral and ethical issues, as well as about the nature of God.
Wow.
So spirits are around. You can contact them. They're smarter than us. They don't trip up on their podcast notes as much. And they give you guidance if you can contact them. That's what's going on with spiritualism, which I feel like applies to a lot of different spiritual beliefs.
Yeah, that's true.
So this belief system developed popularity in the Americas and in Europe in the 1850s. And even though the Victorian era is often associated with like, I think it's associated with like pretty rigid social norms.
That's what I would think too.
Like it's very conservative, as well as it had a lot of like technological and scientific progress at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was this sort of counterculture emerged that people were really fascinated by clairvoyance, crystal gazing, and just spiritualism in general. But it's not something that is often talked about when we look at the Victorian era.
It's not at all. That's really interesting, actually.
I love it. It's so weird.
Yeah, it is very much so like counterculture. I think that was a really good word for it.
Mm-hmm. So it saw a rise in popularity in England specifically after the death of Prince Albert, who was the husband of Queen Victoria, hence the Victorian era, right? And that's because, I mean, Lees is a part of this, but I didn't put this in my notes, but I'll just add, many spiritualists at the time claimed either to have previously predicted the prince's death or that they were connecting with him in some way. There was a lot of like people coming out of the woodwork and claiming some sort of energetic connection to Prince Albert.
Weird.
I think that's super weird. I don't know. I think he was a very well-regarded figure. I think him and Queen Victoria's marriage was very beloved to the people. So I don't know if it's just because they were really popular, or I don't know, maybe he was like really trying to communicate with this side after he passed, and he was hitting up everybody.
I'm not done.
Yeah, he's like, I have stuff to say.
Yeah, shoot.
So let me get into Lees and how he intersects with Prince Albert. So in the years after Prince Albert's death, sometime between 1862 or 1863, the records are unclear, teenage Robert Lees, he's a teenager, I think he's like 13, reportedly made contact with the deceased noble.
Nice.
As like a 13-year-old.
No big deal.
Yeah, we all did that.
I mean, as I will do, I will contact a random 13-year-old after when I'm like dead.
Right. Of all people, who would you go for?
Exactly.
He reportedly would enter into a trance state and channel messages. And he said that he worked with the support of a spiritual familiar, which is a term that is used a lot in witchcraft, actually.
Like Sabrina the Teenage Witch has the black cat.
Salem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yes, familiars are, for people who don't know their witch history, familiars they're kind of like...
Not to be weird or anything.
Yeah, they're spirits, or in some cases people say demons that tend to take on an animal form.
Yeah.
So he said he had one, which is really cool. I want one.
Yeah, I want one. I'm jealous.
Yeah, especially as a 13-year-old, you have a cool little like demon pet following you around.
Cool.
Well, he began hosting seances, and people would travel from all over to see this teenage boy enter into a trance and contact their loved ones.
Oh my God.
So after hearing this, it's rumored, this is not confirmed, but there were witnesses, okay? So it's pretty confirmed. Queen Victoria sent 2 court officials in disguise to attend one of Lee's seances. Because again, word spread really quickly that this boy was communicating regularly with Prince Albert.
Right.
So according to reports of the people who were present, Lee's was able to accurately identify both of her officials.
Oh my God. So he like called him out?
Like right away. He was like, oh, you and you're here on behalf of the Queen. Isn't that spooky?
That's spooky.
Spooky. It's claimed that Lees lived for a period of time in Buckingham Palace.
Oh my God.
So that Victoria could regularly talk with her beloved Albert through him. However, those claims are very unsubstantiated.
Okay.
The only evidence we have of Queen Victoria and Robert Lees communicating is that she sent him a thank you note in 1899.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow.
So years later.
It's decades later.
Yeah. Thanking him for that he sent her a copy of one of his books.
Oh wow.
But that seems...
So he would have been like a fully grown man at this point.
At that point, it makes me wonder if they had some sort of contact before for us to even find record. Like, did they keep in touch?
Yeah, exactly.
Really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So his work as a teen spiritualist ends...
as he turns 20.
Yeah. Ends at some point, right? He actually goes on to live a normal life. He gets married to his childhood sweetheart, Sarah Ann Bishop, and they have 16 kids together.
What?
Super normal life.
Yeah.
10 of those
That's
children...
pretty extra normal right there. If that's a word. Extra normal?
Paranormal? Extraordinary.
Extraordinary. There we go.
10 of their kids live to adulthood. And then in 1878, Lees and his family moved to London, where he was working as a journalist.
Oh, okay, cool. So that's pretty normal.
Yes.
I mean, is that a good career path or career move, going from like spiritualist to journalist? I feel like it's kind of a step down. No offense to journalists, like at all, but like you're kind of like a Tyler Henry. I can't really see him going to be like a
school teacher.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be kind of weird.
Or like a news reporter or something.
Yeah.
I love Tyler Henry. For those who are not familiar with that young man, I freaking love him, okay? He's amazing. Don't argue with me about it. Stop. Like, don't.
like literally none of our listeners are saying anything. Like, I'm not saying anything.
I don't want to hear shit about it in any comments. I love Tyler Henry.
Oh, please put comments now.
Don't. I'm serious. Anyway,
wink, wink. Let's
not discuss it. So it's just really interesting that he went from like a celebrity doing something very paranormal, actually is the good fitting word there, to like, I'm going to be a journalist. It makes me wonder, it's either like one of two things, and I want to hear what you think. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad were like putting him up to do this shit.
Right.
And it was kind of like a scam to make money. And so he like, I don't know, his parents probably passed away at some point, or he got married, he gained independence, and then just was like, oh, I don't want to do that stuff anymore. Or he decided, like, this isn't something that I like sharing with people.
So, okay.
There's more to come, I
yeah,
will say. So what is your guess
so
at this point?
So my first gut instinct was that it was the first. It was like his parents were putting up him up to it.
Yeah.
And,
because the spiritualist thing is super trendy, especially with the people in London. Let's make a quick buck.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned also, like, in 1899, like, he had also been communicating with Victoria. So, like, that makes me think that, like, somewhere deep down, like, he believes this is real.
Right. Either way.
Either way,
that's a good point.
It's probably the latter.
All right.
I'm guessing.
Just taking a temperature check. Listeners, what do you think?
Okay, great insight. Thank you, guys.
Really good point. All right.
Yeah.
So let me take us to 1888.
Nice.
At the time of the Jack the Ripper murders.
Not nice.
Lees is living in London.
Okay.
And a quick recap. Jack the Ripper is the unidentified serial killer, before serial killer was even a term, who terrorized London in 1888, killing at least 5 women and mutilating their bodies in such an unusual manner that lots of people thought this person had substantial knowledge of human anatomy.
So like a doctor or something.
Yeah, that's the prevailing theory.
Like the Black Dahlia murderer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Lees is just there, minding his business, being a journalist. And according to his diary, in 1888, in October, during a month where there's no Ripper murders, Lees went to both the City of London Police and the Scotland Yard offering assistance, saying he could help them find that killer.
And they're like, okay.
And he was turned away. And both times they were like, this guy's nuts, right? This is a madman in British terms. It's a madman.
It's a madman.
But so he wrote it down. He's like, I like had a vision. I feel like I could find this dude, so I went to go ask them if they need help, and they said no.
I wonder by this point, like, if he had stopped really receiving visions, or like...
I bet if we read his books, and I didn't do a ton of research into his books, we would know that answer. I don't think so. From what I gleaned from the research, it seems like he just didn't really share them as much. But particularly with the Jack the Ripper, he was having visions.
Shoot, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
So then one story often cited in books and films on Jack the Ripper is that Lees, using his psychic power, actually led the police to the real Jack the Ripper killer. But it was some, like, big-time doctor, and the police didn't want, or, like, society didn't want people to know who he was, so they just locked him up in an asylum and told the public that they still couldn't find the killer. This story appeared later, after the Jack the Ripper situation, in April 1895 in the Chicago Herald, as sort of like, oh, this investigative journalist, like, we found this evidence. Mm-hmm. And another version of the same story was published in The People, which was a British tabloid, in May 1895, again, years after Jack the Ripper had terrorized people. However, Ripperologists, which...
Ripperologists!
Isn't that the coolest name for, like, a specified, like, study of something?
Yeah, that's like absurdly specific.
I'm a Ripperologist.
Like, I just, like, studied this, like, a particular serial killer who plagued London during, like, a few months. Yeah. Not even, like, a full year, like, a few months in 1888. Like, what?
It's so niche.
It's, like, insanely niche. That can't even be real.
But yet again, I do think Ripperologists is a really good...
they're real.
is a really good band name.
Oh, that's a good band name, yeah.
Yeah. Ripperologists disregard the story as a hoax.
Ooh.
And they actually cite Lees's diary entries to back this up, because he never wrote about, I helped them find him. He only wrote about, man, I really wanted to help them find him, and they thought it was nuts.
Yeah.
So it's seen as a hoax, but at the time when these were published, people were like, oh my God, they did find him and they won't tell us who he is. A conspiracy theory type of thing.
Absolutely.
And even though it's been dispelled time and time again, Robert James Lees is depicted all the time in works of like documentaries and fiction as having been the person who actually knew who the killer was. He was even a comic book character in a comic called From Hell by Alan Moore, which I thought was so cool. But there's there's documentaries just on this theory alone.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Which I think is so interesting because it seems to me that part of the story very obviously untrue.
Yeah.
I would be interested to watch to see why they sustain that it is true. But yeah.
Yeah.
So after the Jack the Ripper story, Lees seems to live a really quiet and normal life. He's not really making a splash. In 1902, he moves to Devon with his family and stays there until 1928, and he moves back to his hometown where he grew up as a little boy, where he was hosting seances and stuff.
Wow.
In 1931, he published his final book, and he had not published one in decades, I think, titled My Books, How They Were Written. What a good title!
That's just like, it's like very like self-explanatory. My books, how are they written?
He passed away really shortly after he published that.
Maybe he had a seance and like he saw like his own...
He was about to die and he was like, oh shit, I gotta get this out there.
Yeah, the spirits are like, yo bro, you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Get this out.
He reportedly dies of just natural causes at the age of 81.
Okay.
So he went from teen spiritualist to journalist to maybe almost helping find Jack the Ripper and just a regular husband and father.
Wow.
That is Robert James Lees.
That is so wild.
Isn't that nuts?
That is really, really weird.
So I'll share how I found out about this person. I was reading a historical fiction novel.
Okay.
It's like a romance novel. But I think probably a lot of people listening would be interested in this author. The book itself was called The Siren of Sussex.
Oh, wow. Okay.
By Mimi Matthews. Mimi Matthews writes historical romances, specifically of the Victorian era. That's like her niche as a writer. And she is incredibly like well researched and very thorough to the point where at the end of the book, she like cited like what was real, what was exaggerated, what was not. And Robert Lees is a character in her book.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, the main character is going to a seance with like her kooky uncle. And it's the seance where Robert Lees identifies the Queen's officials.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting book. It's not my favorite of hers. My favorite of hers is actually A Holiday by Gaslight. It's like a short little like Christmas romantic book.
Oh my god.
They're really cute. But if anyone likes historical romance, I highly, highly recommend Mimi Matthews. And if you read that one, you'll get to see Robert Lees.
There we go.
And other spiritualists. The book actually like a really random theme of the book is Victorian-era spiritualism. So you get to go multiple times in the book. You follow the characters through these like spiritualist parties of like aristocrats and elites.
Ooh, that would have been fun.
Yeah, who are supposed to be like, proper, good ladies and gentlemen, Christians, things like that. But then they go wild and they have seances and gaze into crystals and stuff like that.
Ooh, that sounds like a good time.
Yeah, really interesting. So in addition to The Siren of Sussex, because I did use that for some of my sources here, I also used Wikipedia and History.com.
Very good. Good old Wikipedia.
It never lets us down.
Never.
It was really hard to find information on Robert James Lees that did not just solely focus on the conspiracy theory that he found Jack the Ripper.
Oh, right.
It was really through Mimi Matthews' research and what she provided that I was able to, and Wikipedia, that I was able to piece together what I thought was super interesting, the first part of his life where he may or may not have been like best buddies with Queen Victoria.
Yeah, I know, seriously. That's just, I love how it's just glossed over.
It's not mentioned in any of like the Jack the Ripper websites that I was looking at to try to find more information. They don't even mention that he had this pre-existing life as a famous spiritualist.
Right, and like as a teenage boy had like...
contacted Prince Albert allegedly.
Yeah, and then possibly Queen Victoria.
Yeah.
Like who knew, like what? Like come on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That was really cool.
Thank you.
Also very different than someone living around the same time, Robert Lee. Yeah, very different persons, even very similar names, though.
Very similar names, and that's about where it ends.
That's about where it ends, yeah. Well, dear listeners, thank you so much. As always, you can find us on Instagram at History for Weirdos. So if you want to pop by, give us a like, follow
See what
us.
We've got going on there.
Yeah, that's probably the best spot for us.
Yeah, to get updated if like weird things happen or we have like a cool announcement. That's usually where we are. And thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Until next time. Adios.
Cocoa Beach is your ultimate Florida beach vacation. Pack your bags and open your mind. Adventure is calling from Orlando's closest beach. Cocoa Beach is Florida's secret gem that's got it all. It's the budget-friendly, retro-cool destination that families and surfers adore. Come soak up the sun and ride the East Coast's most famous waves. Start planning your one-of-a-kind getaway now at visitspacecoast.com. That's visitspacecoast.com.
We all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once, and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.